Hurtful things parents do to their children you should avoid. There are people in your life who will lift you up and give you support whenever you need it, and there may be others who delight in tearing you down or causing you pain. It can be particularly disheartening and challenging when a toxic person like this also happens to be your parent or someone you're tasked to co-parent with. Whatever the case, there are things you can do to mitigate the effects of toxic parents. Here's more about what exactly a toxic parent is and how you can make strides toward healing emotional wounds from a traumatic childhood. Most parents genuinely do their best to provide their children with a happy and healthy upbringing. But even these individuals can accidentally make mistakes that may result in future therapy appointments. Unfortunately, some parents go beyond the occasional mistake and veer into the toxic category. Regardless of whether or not a parent is purposefully being toxic, there are several behaviors that can cause so much emotional and mental damage to a child that it ends up greatly affecting them even after they have grown up. If you experienced any of the following situations as a child, the odds are high that one or both of your parents were at least slightly toxic. Most people clearly recognize that serious maltreatment, like abuse or neglect, can have a lasting impact on children. But what about toxic parenting strategies that don't rise to an extreme level of abuse? Or what about destructive parenting behaviors that might be less obvious? There are some families who appear to function okay to the outside world yet are riddled with dysfunctional family dynamics behind closed doors. And just because these don't constitute abuse, or because they aren't visible to anyone outside the family, doesn't mean they won't prevent kids from becoming healthy adults. Parenting is a lifetime duty, and there are no breaks in it. With child, a parent is also born, and it goes on forever. No parent wants to follow a toxic technique while parenting his child. However, because you are involved in a number of things concerning your child, you never realize when toxicity creeps in your parenting techniques. These might not be intentional but can be damaging for your child. In a long run, it may also impact your relationship with him. Though parents would never want anything wrong for their child, it's better to know when you go off track. Here are 8 things toxic parents do. What is a toxic parent? To be clear, toxic parent isn't a medical term or a clearly defined concept. When people discuss toxic parents, they are typically describing parents who consistently behave in ways that cause guilt, fear, or obligation in their children. Their actions aren't isolated events, but patterns of behavior that negatively shape their child's life. The thing is, parents are human beings, and that means that they may make mistakes, yell too much, or do potentially damaging things to their kids, even unintentionally. But their impulse is to do better and make things right. A toxic parent, however, is more concerned with their own needs than whether what they're doing is harmful or damaging. They likely won't apologize or even admit that what they are doing is wrong, and the abuse or neglect tends to be ongoing or progressive. Here are 8 toxic things that parents do. 1. Being overly critical. Some parents often criticize their children as they want their little ones to do well. However, they forget that finding fault in this manner can hurt their child in more ways than one. It can lower his self-esteem and make him question his self-worth. Children of such parents may even develop anxiety and depression as they grow up. Above all, it can prevent a child from bonding closely with his parents. Do you also go overboard with criticizing your child? What you could do. Humans have flaws. Although it is a good sign that you want your child to improve and get ahead in life, criticism is not the right way to get a positive result. Remember, your child always wants to do better and earn your praise. So, connect with her by listening to what she says. Try to understand what is keeping her from improving or performing up to your expectations, and show her the way. Praise your child for the effort she puts in to encourage her. Nothing works better than positive reinforcement. 2. Controlling. Controlling parents become overly involved in their children's lives to the point that it limits the child's freedom, independence, and individuality. Signs of a controlling parent include interfering and expecting children to fit the parent's image of what they should be, rather than giving them the freedom to develop their own interests and goals. Toxic parents make decisions for their children. They don't allow them to do things on their own. From the moment of waking up till the moment of sleeping, the children's life is controlled by toxic parents. 3. They expect their children to agree with them about everything. Some children grow up with parents who will not allow them to express different thoughts or opinions. If you disagree with such a parent, they might accuse you of being headstrong, rebellious, stupid, or worse. It seems especially common in matters of faith. A parent might insist that a child who doesn't believe exactly as they do will wind up facing serious punishment, like hell or physical retribution. Parents like these will typically not tolerate any questions from their children, because even asking a simple question would suggest the kid doesn't believe whatever the parent thinks they should. Religious toxic parents might call their kids possessed. Other unhealthy parents might stick with just as damaging labels like crazy. Ultimately, this is toxic parenting because the child is not permitted to think for themselves. Such kids are typically expected to accept their parents' words as fact and behave more like a soldier or a robot than a human being. 4. They fail to provide you with affirmations and security. Some people believe that showing tough love is an important way to ensure that their children are able to take care of themselves in the future. If you are the recipient of this approach on a regular basis, you might even believe that this has had a positive impact on your life. However, if you practically fall apart now because of any perceived failure or rejection, then this most likely stems from a parent's toxic refusal to provide you with the right amount of security and affirmation while you were young. Tough love might work sometimes, but it cannot be the only approach a parent takes if they want their child to become a well-rounded adult. 5. Criticisms on appearance. Children, especially teens, love to experiment with the latest fashion trends. All the parents might not know what kinds of trends are going outside. You might start to judge your child without knowing what they want to do. Your hair looks ugly. What have you done with your hair? Constantly judging your kids regarding their appearance will reduce kids' self-confidence. Children are usually skeptical about their appearance, and judging them will reduce their self-confidence. It would be best to let your kids be who they want to be and what they want to do unless they are not involved in inappropriate activities. They will start to feel guilty about their choices. Teach your kids to love themselves and accept who they are and how they look instead of being judged about their appearance. For instance, if your kids are overweight, encourage them to exercise. Never say you are fat or tease them constantly, saying fatty, overweight, etc. 6. Not respecting the boundaries. As parents, it is normal for them to be invested and caring about the aspects of their child's life. However, some parents take it to another level where it becomes toxic. What does this mean? So, everyone has their personal boundaries and privacy, right? Well, a toxic parent does not respect those boundaries. Instead, they invade so much into their child's personal life that their child may begin to feel uncomfortable. Whether out of love or care, parents should avoid overstepping healthy boundaries. 7. Keeping secrets from children. Toxic parents refuse to involve their kids in important matters that should need their opinion or consent as well. They feel that they have all the rights to take decision, and what they have done is absolutely correct for everyone. Also, they assume that keeping secrets about traumatic situations like abuse or risks can be beneficial for their family. Hence, they do not talk about anything to their children and just blame it once it is done. Another side of this could probably be when they try to neglect their importance as kids. Toxic parents may not understand the boundaries that they need to keep with their children. Hence, it results to dysfunctional families and exposure of children's mental and physical health. 8. Setting unrealistic expectations. We read parenting books, we watch reality shows, and we catch glimpses of our friends' children. Then we start to think about our own kids. Surely our 2-year-old ought to have reached a certain stage, and our baby should definitely be sleeping through the night by now. We expect our 6-year-old to do as he's told without ever making a mistake, which we perceive as disobedience and disrespect. In reality, kids are often disobedient, especially when we don't pay attention to their emotional development or we don't talk about what's bothering them. If we don't provide emotional support, they will disobey, because no child will do what a parent wants every single time. We forget they're simply human children. They will make mistakes, just like we did as kids and continue to do as adults. When we approach parenting with unrealistic expectations, we set ourselves up for disappointment. We put unrealistic pressure on our children. It leaves us frustrated and feeling as though we're doing something wrong. It also makes our children feel like they can never live up to our expectations. Emotionally healthy parents understand their children's feelings, encourage them to follow their dreams, apologize when they make mistakes, and discuss problems through healthy communication. However, some families operate on dysfunctional rules, where critical, controlling, and abusive parents who neglect the needs of their children are considered normal. Going beyond the occasional mistake, Parents with consistently harmful behavior can become highly destructive. They fail to realize that such an upbringing hiding behind the excuse of tempering the character can lead to an unimaginable amount of psychological damage that will necessitate a lifetime of therapy. Most children can deal with an occasional outburst of anger but need a certain amount of love, reassurance, and understanding to counter its adverse effects. When a child is raised through repetitive abuse, loathing, judgment, and criticism for their behavior, personality, or performance, it leaves them feeling demoralized and with low confidence. Parents are supposed to be caregivers of their children. Sometimes this need makes them vulnerable to being parented by wounded people. Overcoming toxic parents is possible by being aware of their existence, acknowledging it as unacceptable behavior, and recognizing the changes necessary for cultivating healing relationships within the family. We all are humans, and this makes us likely to make mistakes while raising our kids. Understanding and accepting your toxic parenting patterns is the biggest step to raising a happy and healthy child. Go ahead and analyze yourself as a parent to correct any mistakes that can be fatal in the future. Parent-child relationships often get ruined because of immature behavior and vulnerable emotional capabilities of parents in their relationship. Thus, it is better to take one step at a time and change the equation of the parent's relationship with the child for good, one that doesn't harm their childhood. So these are 8 signs toxic parents do. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Turn on the notification bell so that you get notified as soon as we upload a video. And I'll see you in next one.